Okay, now from that PowerPoint, actually the title of that PowerPoint is the legal regime. Every time when we talk about that one, for your information, this is the, look into your diagram at your PowerPoint 4. Can you open it up? Put one side your recording, your Zoom, and then the other side the PowerPoint that I've sent. You look at the PowerPoint number 4.
Yeah, Mother.
Okay, lovely. When you have that PowerPoint number 4, the objective of the whole 73 slides sent to you, it's all about that diagram. Okay, is the standard diagram to represent legal regime of any states, right? Malaysia, Sri Lanka, Iraq, Jordan, and the rest of the world, you will have this type of legal regime, right? If you bear with me, so before I start on the let's look into whether you have read them and you have any questions. Right, now let's look into today. What we want to understand is this diagram. Every time when people ask you, right, on the legal regime of your states, right, that is what is the maritime zone of your state. Sometimes the wording, the terminology in international law, law of the sea, terminology is really very important. When we talk about the legal regime, it means the zone. But the word zone sometimes is not very favorable to some country in Europe. So they more or less like it when they talk about the word legal regime. In Malaysia, in Asia, we understood it by the word maritime zone. All right. Now, having said that, there is also country under the Commonwealth that call this zone as delimitation. Delimitation of the state sea, right? Delimitation of the state sea. So when it comes to the title alone, all right, there are 3 or 4 understanding over that one, right? Okay. So now, each part of the zone, when we talk about this diagram, everything is based on the diagram. This semester, we're not focusing the exam questions on the first part of law of the sea, right? Okay. Now, when we talk about the maritime zone, you can see it on the diagram 4, right? Each part has a legal historical background. That's the one, okay, that makes to the exam question. But as I said, this year, there is no exam question on how the diagram come into it to be incorporated, yeah? Okay, right. Any question there? Am I making myself clear? Can you understand? Yes?
Yes, Prof.
Thank you, dear. All right. Now, we start with this part. Now, what make the world under the law of the sea decided on maritime zone? That is the first part that you need to understand on the legal history, right? Law is about the history. Why? Why do they want to have a zone? Right? The other words, sometimes the ordinary people use the word boundary of the sea. We are very famous, we are very familiar with the word boundary of the sea. Okay, now, why do they want to have a maritime zone? Why it is so big deal that the United Nations have constructed UNCLOS, United Nations Law of the Sea, with regards to the zone? The answer to that is because before the modern version of international law, the world is always fighting about the war, the territory. When they were fighting about the territory, they had war, they conquer each other. But where do they, most of the people or the soldier come from? They are not on the walking soldier or foot soldier, but most of them come from the sea, right? In the earlier, we talk about the sea, closed sea and open sea by Hugo Grotius and John Sheldon, right? That's the history that we talk about. So John Sheldon was the first guy, right, in the world to have the sea closed, all right? Okay, they closed the sea for protection so that they encroach the width of their territorial state to include part of the sea. That is the territorial sea and the contiguous zone, right? Based on John Sheldon theory of McCluskey. All right. Okay. So we have territorial sea and contiguous zone. Territorial sea is because you want to have your law and your privilege over the sea, right? Then they are entitled to have as far as the eyes can see. But through time, since 1958 UNCLOS to 1982 UNCLOS, they have it only 12 nautical miles. So that's the history of territorial sea and contiguous zone. Because John Sheldon did that, it caused a problem. The earlier part, you will see by reading the case of Norwegian fishery and Anglo-Norwegian fisheries, and also the case of North Continental. That's two cases to represent why you need to have territorial sea and contiguous zone. Contiguous zone, earlier in my video, in my audio, I have said that it is meant to be for the safety zone. All right. Okay. So you can have a different diagram. There are so many diagrams. At one time, I have compiled all the diagram together, but this time we stick to the official diagram like this, right? Where is in that diagram at slide number 4? Where is the mainland? In the mainland, you will not be able to see the internal water. Yeah, internal water. You see, right? Okay. Now, in the diagram that I gave you, the first, the dotted line next to the main line, that is the baseline. That is ground zero. All right. That is how you measure it. Anything that is inside there. All right. The other part that you have to know, but today it's not a problem. That's why I wanted to finish it in only one class to talk about the maritime zone. Yeah. All right. Remember when I said earlier that in your internal water, you want your local port to be in the internal water, right? When you have your international port, you want that international port to be in the contiguous zone or further. All right, that's the reason why some country do the land reclamation, like Singapore, they had land reclamation, right? Malaysia also had land reclamation to the side of the port near the Tanjung Pelepas. One is the port in the south, and in other countries like China, Hong Kong, all right, Netherlands, they all have, all right, land reclamation in the contiguous zone so that the port will be outside, not inside the territorial water. All right, okay. Now the next history that is important is this: the difference between 1958 UNCLOS and the difference between 1982 UNCLOS on exclusive economic zone. The exclusive economic zone is a new name. Before, the same 200 nautical miles name was called the conservation of fishery zone, right? They were only paying attention to fish. But in the exclusive economic zone, all right, the state that acquires or proclaims that area will be able to have more than just the fish, right, to go explore and exploit, take it and sell it, all right. Okay, now continental shelf, the history of Truman Proclamation 1945, Truman Proclamation, President of America, all right, okay, decided to claim, he was the first in the world that made history, decided to claim what the land underwater that they call continental shelves as part of America. All right, okay, why does he want to acquire that? Because of two things. Number one, America have discovered the aqualung. Aqualung is the tank, the lighter tank that you put at the back of your shoulder when you go down the water, right? Okay, because of the aqualung, they can dive really below, down than the 2.5 nautical miles, right? Over here in the continental shelf, right? At the same time, all right, okay, it's because they have discovered this manganese nodule is a kind of ore, O-R-E, is a kind of gallium, the Malay said, right? It's a kind of ore, and that one is really very, very expensive. it comes in a form of a ball. You can crack it, you can open it, and there are all sorts of benefit come from it, including nuclear energy. So you see, manganese nodules is really very important, but to harvest it, to collect it, to use it, it's really very expensive. Malaysia has not gone into that so far. Other than that, the continental shelf offer you, right, for you to go dig for fossil fuel. That's oil, right? People nowadays don't dig just for oil, they dig for gas, for kerosene, there, and for diamond, and for all other benefit that is found in the continental itself. All right. When it comes to the deep sea bed, I'm still looking at the diagram 4. I believe you have the diagram with you too. We are now at the deep sea bed. Now, over in the deep sea bed, two things only that is very important. Number one, okay, you need to know when you reach seabed. All right. When, okay, how do you do that? What do you know? After you have gone into the area called continental shelf, continental slope, continental rise, and the deep sea bed. Right. For us, the normal people, we don't measure. All right. It's not our expert area to measure it. But the scientists will do it. The engineer, marine engineer, will be able to determine that you have reached the deep sea bed. But as a officer, you will need to take the sediment, all right, the soil from the seabed area, and you will then need to test it in the lab. The lab will give you the percentage, all right. United Nations has already how many percentage of soil found in the deep seabed, in the continental rise, continental slope, and continental shelves itself. Each part has its own name. It can only be identified by the help of the scientists when they take the soil to the lab. All right. So we need not worry about that one. That's number one. Number two, in the deep sea bed, you will need to talk about common heritage of mankind principles, right? Common heritage of mankind principles tells you that whatever you find in the seabed, whatever the state found in the seabed, it is not meant for just that country. It is meant to be shared. That's the reason why when you want to go there, you have to tell United Nations departments. All right, we will go into that one according to UNCLOS. Today we are looking into the first part only, right? Okay, the seabed, you will need to go, all right, inquire that if anybody have already gone into the seabed area for exploitation and exploration, you will want to join them, or you will become the hero to start the exploration yourself, right? They will tell you where you are, radar will be fixed, you will be identified in the middle of the, under the deep sea bed, right? When you acquire, you will then share with you will report it to the enterprise and share 60-40. I mentioned that one earlier. All right, okay, right? That is the deep sea bed. Now, when we come to the high sea, the historical background under the high sea follow Hugo Grotius Me Liberum book. All right. Okay, remember the theory. The first one is John Sheldon. The second one is John Sheldon is Me Calusum. Right. Hugo Grotius is Me Liberum. When it comes to Me Liberum, meaning that sea is open for all to use. All right. So, okay, they embedded that principles in the high sea. After the 0 to the 300 or 0 to 320, right? The rest of the sea is known as the high sea. High sea free navigation by everyone nowadays, a party to International Maritime Organization, and therefore, right, okay, they have to abide by the rule of the road. Rule of the road here is not the road, is the route. All right, a rule of the route where you will have to safely navigate in the high sea following the rules. Okay, right, that as much as summarize the whole of our topic today. All right, anyone wants to ask question? Okay.
No, Prof.
All right, let's look into the next page.
Prof. Yeah, I have a question. Just now you said the second one is Hugo Grotius. The first one, what was that? Was the person name?
Okay, John Sheldon.
Oh, John Sheldon. All right, thanks.
Mm-mm. Anybody wants to ask any more questions? There are two. Remember the first folder that I have already sent to you much earlier in the first COVID, if I'm not mistaken. You have those information on John Sheldon and Hugo Grotius, right? Okay, so those are the background history of the development of UNCLOS law of the sea. All right, okay. But today we're looking into the diagram, how you measure. So, all right, let's look into,
I have a
no
question.
question? No question, it's okay. Shafiq, did you say
Yes.
something? Yeah.
Now you mentioned to have the reason of why do they want to have the maritime zone.
Yeah.
One case, the first case is
Anglo-Norwegian fishery case. Okay, let me repeat. Anglo-Norwegian fishery case. Anglo-Norwegian fishery case. All right. Okay, I typed it for you. Kat situ. The second case is, all right, North Continental, all right, case, North Continental case, North Continental fishery case. Both are all about fishery, right? Okay, now long ago, before the 1982, before the 1958, all right, these two areas of territorial sea and contiguous zone were not obvious when it comes to the measurement, right? The fact of both of the case, it started with the fishermen, all right? Okay, there's North Continental is versus UK, Anglo-Norwegian is UK. Right, when we talk about UK, next time you can Google there, then you will see the UK is an island, right? England is an island. In front of it, you have this country called Norwegian, right? Behind it, you will have this country called Denmark, Netherlands, German, all right, and goes further lagi kat sebelah atas, all right? Okay, so all these countries facing England, right? When English people, when Queen Elizabeth with John Sheldon closed the sea, all right? Remember the history? This chap, John Sheldon, all right, to define the open sea, he come out with a thesis, and then the thesis convert to the law. At that time, they call it a decree by the country UK that they closed the sea for 3 nautical miles. Long ago, territorial sea is 3 nautical miles. All right. Okay, only 3 nautical miles, which is shorter. How do they measure 3 nautical miles? By putting their ship to the sea, and then they shoot a cannon. All right, from the sea. All right, they shoot the ship. Right. But you must remember, for a ship to go to the sea, it cannot be too close to the shore, right? Okay, because the ship is really very big and very deep, so the ship will need to go further. Jadi how further can you close the sea? Ni dua-dua case, Anglo-Norwegian, one is the first, the North Continental becomes later in 1958, but the facts is the same. Right, when the British closed the sea by putting their navy, what we call as Armada in England, right, they put their navy all the way to the sea. How far is it from the shore or from the coast? 3 nautical miles, right? Okay, what is 3 nautical miles? In kilometers, is 3 times, right, 3 nautical miles equivalent to 1 nautical miles equivalent to 2.53 kilometers. So 3 nautical miles is like 3 times 3, all right? That is 9 kilometers away, about 10 kilometers away, yeah? All right, okay, so you see,